podcast is an audio program, a little bit like a radio show, that listeners can tune into anytime they like via the internet. Podcasts often focus on a particular theme or topic like Irish history, art, creativity, travel, sports, or any specific interest area the podcast maker wants to share. Making a podcast can be a great way of sharing things that you are passionate about or interested in with other people who want to hear about them. In school, it can be a great way to share your opinions, voice and ideas with your classmates and school community. It can be a platform to share other students' achievements, a space for learning new things, and most importantly, a fun way to express your creativity. A podcast can be any length, from a 1-minute comedy sketch to a 3-hour investigation of a topic or subject. Podcasts aren't tied down to a particular schedule, so you can make them as often as you have time for. For Creative February, think about how you can use podcasting to express your voice and make your mark. Sounds great. So how do you make a podcast? All programs, whether it's TV shows, radio programs or podcasts, have a format. Format simply means the structure of how a program or podcast is arranged. Does it have a beginning, middle and end? How long will it be? Does it have 1 or 2 hosts? Will the podcast include guests? Will it feature music, sounds and audio recorded outside of your podcasting space? The first step of making your podcast is to decide what the format of your podcast will be, who will host it, what guests it will feature, and what you're going to talk about. What questions will you ask? At this point, it can be useful to brainstorm and write down your ideas first, and then write a loose script or plan for the podcast. Remember, you don't have to stick rigidly to your script when you're recording your podcast. Think of it more like a guide to support you in creating. So, what equipment do you need to make a podcast? You'll need a microphone. A USB microphone is a microphone that can plug straight into a computer via a USB cable. These kind of microphones are simple and straightforward to use. They don't need additional power sources and they don't need a special interface in order to plug into a computer. You can plug them straight in and get recording.
I'm Helen Flanagan. And I'm James Gardner.
USB microphones come in a range of prices from low cost to high end and expensive. You'll also need a pair of headphones. Headphones are essential as they will allow you to properly hear what you record. This is really important, especially in school where there can be a lot of movement and noise. You'll also need a computer, tablet or another device like your phone that you can capture and edit audio on. And there are lots of free software options that you can use, including GarageBand for Apple products, Audacity for Windows or Chromebook, or Supersound for Android. Finally, you're going to need a quiet space. It's important to have a quiet space to record your podcast in. A small room with a carpet is best, as sound is reflected around large spaces and hard surfaces. Now that you have a plan for your podcast and all the equipment, it's time to record it. Set up your space for the recording. Start with your microphone and recording equipment, and then think about where it's best for your host and guests to sit. If you're just working with one microphone, think about where to place everyone so they can be heard. Plug your USB microphone into your device and open whatever recording software you have decided to use. In this video, we're going to record and edit our podcast in GarageBand, which comes free on Apple devices. When you open GarageBand or any sound recording software, you will see that a new project opens with a brand new track. A track is like a timeline where your recordings go. You can create multiple tracks by clicking this plus button. Later on, when we're editing our podcast, we'll look at multi-track editing in more detail. In GarageBand, you'll want to turn off the metronome before you record your podcast. You'll find that at the top of the multi-track area. Before you start recording, it's a good idea to test your sound levels and ensure that everyone can be heard clearly and at the right level. You'll see a little meter beside or near your track. This indicates your audio level, how loud or quiet things sound on the microphone. Generally, your audio meter should be somewhere in the middle, not too high and not too low. Once you're happy with the levels, you're ready to record. Start to record by clicking the red button. You will see your audio record onto the track as you go. Don't worry if you make a mistake while recording. You can stop and start your recording as many times as you need to get it right.
Hello everyone, welcome to BTS I said on instead of of. Alright, so this is part of the Creative Schools program which is supported by the Arts Council.
We like to do arts and crafts, and sometimes we'll do them together.
You know to start your own creative projects and just let all of the creative energy flow and do your thing.
Do a bit of singing and teach them stuff really inspires my creativity as well, because you're helping a new generation.
That's good, that's really good. Love that.
So, you've recorded your podcast. What next? Depending on how long you want your podcast to be, you might want to cut out parts of your recording or move some of the audio around. You might want to add music or sound effects or add more recordings in at a later point. All audio editing software works in a similar way, although there may be differences in how the editing tools appear. Most audio editing software will allow you to create multiple tracks and are called multi-track editors. Earlier, we recorded our audio on a single track. If you want to add music or new audio, you can create new tracks in the software, which you can then rename so you remember what it is. Using multiple tracks, you can layer up sounds and audio. To cut out parts of your audio, drag the play bar over the place you want to cut and right-click and select Split at Playhead. You can split the track to cut out the audio you want to remove. Similarly, you can trim the beginning and end of clips by dragging them from the bottom of the clip. You can move your individual audio clips around on the timeline to wherever you want them to appear by dragging and dropping them into place. You might want to leave spaces between your recordings for music or sounds. When you're happy with the edit and the position of all your audio clips, you can add music and sound effects. It's always best to do this after you edit your recorded clips and have moved them into the right place. At this point, you can also add effects to your audio clips. In GarageBand and other software, you will find an effects rack to the left of your window. You can drag effects onto the individual clips. These can be fun to play with. Now it's time to mix your audio. Mixing means adjusting the volume of your tracks and cleaning up messy sound until you are happy with it. You can adjust the volume of your clips by adjusting the volume bar in the track, or by clicking Mix in the toolbar, followed by Show Automation. This will bring up the little yellow bar that represents your sound levels. You can adjust the sound up and down by creating little points on the bar. Remember, only do this after you have fully edited your podcast, because if you add in new audio at this point, all the sound on your timeline will move and your volume levels won't match. When you're happy with your mixed podcast, it's time to export it and upload it to an online platform. To export your project from GarageBand, click Share and Export Song to Disk, and finally, select a save destination for the file. In other software, this might be found in the File toolbar and simply called Export. At this point, make sure you click MP3. An MP3 is a type of audio file format that you can upload online to any platform. Exporting your file should only take a few minutes. When your file is exported, it's time to share it online. There are lots of podcast platforms to choose from. To start, your school website might have the capacity to share audio from the website directly. You should check with your school's IT person. You can also use free platforms like SoundCloud or Mixcloud if you set up an account. Congratulations! You've created your first podcast. All that's left to do is share it with your friends, school and community. This Creative February, why not make your mark by creating your own